welcome to our mindful habit for this week. I've been joined by our beautiful guest expert, Angie Jones-Moore from More Unique Life Coaching. And she's going to be sharing her expertise today on our mindful habit today, or this week, I should say. How do I feel check-ins? So this is such an important thing for me. It's one of the most important things that I've done over the years too. I was just saying to you, Angie, wasn't I, that from going from a crumpled heap on the floor to the unshakable mama, which is a term that people have actually called me. Like, I didn't call myself the unshakable mama. Oh gosh, I think my cat's doing something random. Right, so so yeah, we're going to be disturbed by animals.
I was going to say there's two dogs that could potentially come in at any moment.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah. So anyway, without further ado, welcome Angie, and thank you so much for joining me. So would you like to just share a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and why you do it?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having me and for asking me to do this. It's very kind of you.
Sure.
So I'm a life coach and a therapist. I'm heading into my 7th year in January, so I don't know where 7 years has gone, which is a bit, yeah. I became a life coach because a friend suggested 10 years ago that I'd be good at it, and that friend happened to be quite right without blowing my own trumpet, because it seems I'm still going 7 years later, so it must be.
I'm all for blowing your own trumpet, though. Something
Yeah.
enough of. So go you.
But yeah, mindfulness techniques, I think they are a bit of a lifesaver. It might sound a bit dramatic saying that, but once you do get to grips with them, they can alter your perspective, help you, in non-stressful and stressful scenarios, and also help you to keep, a balanced perspective overall, in which case you're then a better person to be around. You're, more from a mum perspective, I suppose you're more able to keep the balance. You're able to maintain that, right, they are children, they are supposed to be doing that, as opposed to feeling like you're getting stressed by normal children behavior,
Yeah, being able to keep a lid on things and just kind of be a bit more present about stuff. And yeah, amazing. So so you work for, your company is More Unique, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. And so where are you based?
I'm based in Chippenham in Wiltshire, but I work over the telephone. So therefore, I have very few clients in Chippenham. Most of them are at different places, some very far flung, actually. So yeah, that gives me a reach. And I often find that people are, there's less restriction if you're on the phone. So you can leave your work office and go and have a call. And I provide a summary email afterwards. Therefore, when the client is on the phone, they can concentrate purely on their conversation, what they'd like to tell me, what we're discussing. And then I provide the summary at the end of the call. Therefore, they've got their tools and their new methods that they can try and reiterate old ones, so that they've got it all in the email, and then they can move forward with that. So you provide almost like a diary, I suppose, of each call that they've got permanently then, haven't they?
And that's really beautiful. And that's like your check-in, isn't it, with yourself as well. So you've got that written record of your progress and checking in with how you're doing, how you're progressing, how you're feeling. So that's lovely. So so why is it so important to create the mindful habit of regularly checking in with yourself, checking in with, asking yourself, how do I feel right now? What do I need right now? How do I want to feel right now?
I think it's really important, because if you travel through life really quickly, you're more likely to stumble. Really, you want to go through life at a nice brisk walk. So you're appreciating everything around you. You're able to move forward at a nice steady pace, but you've got good firm foundations. And I think, unfortunately, with the way the modern world is, with all the media, with everything else, with the pace you're expected to travel as a mum as well, you're supposed to be a really good mum, you're supposed to work full time, and you're supposed to look perfect, all these kind of pressures that society puts on you. Traveling at that kind of speed, if you don't check in with yourself, you are going to stumble, you are going to fall over. And whether that's physical illness, whether that's, mentally you just overloaded and overwhelmed, but the two tend to come together, obviously. And we do tend to get all the bugs off the children when they're small too. So you have to keep that in mind, don't you? As soon as everyone goes back to school and college in September, everyone's poorly, aren't they? So I think it's important, even if you're feeling particularly overwhelmed, I think it's important to check in with yourself. You can even start with every hour if that makes you feel like you're keeping track of yourself.
Yeah.
And then once you feel like you are a little bit more steady in your pace that you're traveling, you can just have a regular check-in time of day. And quite often that time of day when you bring the children home from school, there's that little bit of lull. There's that time, isn't there, between after school and then dinner maybe, or there's maybe a club and then there's a gap. That's quite a good time to sort of get yourself a hot drink or your beverage of choice and just sit and check in and write, how do I actually feel?
Yeah.
How am I doing now? And that's quite a good time to either note a few things down in a journal if your head's too busy, or to practice your mindfulness, breathing, and so on and so forth, and just get yourself back in the moment before you then have to provide food, if that is your role, because obviously it might not be, and do the whole bedtime routine, homework, so on and so forth. So it gives you that little bit of, I do find that's quite a moment for most mums, is that lull after school. You do have that bit of a gap, whether it's half an hour or an hour, it depends very much on what your activities are like, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. No, I'd agree with that. I do find that time of day quite difficult because you never quite know how the children are going to be emotionally, and what kind of mood they're going to be in, what kind of day they've had. They never want to talk about their day either.
No, quite often they'll talk about it 3 days later, but they don't want to at the time, do they?
Yeah, that's it. Especially if you say, "Oh, how was your day?" So
Yeah.
asking it in the right way. So I think, I agree that that time of day is a really good time to just check in on yourself as well. And I love to do it first thing in the morning as well.
Yeah.
When my alarm goes off and before I even open my eyes, I'm like, "Oh, how do I feel today?" And I'm like, "Oh God, how am I going to get through the day today?" Well, that's what I used to feel. Or like, oh, actually, I feel really excited for the day ahead today. And if I feel a bit anxious about the day, it's like, well, why? And let's how do I want to feel about the day? What little tweaks can I make? So
sometimes as well, it's quite good to if you do wake up, maybe you're in a stressful period of life, maybe you've got, if you've got primary school children, maybe they're doing their SATs and things, which is all high pressure on them, and there's lots for parents to think about, your first experience of exams really. Or maybe you're at a GCSE stage where your child is, under an awful lot of pressure in various ways. And you can always break your day down. If you wake up and you feel particularly anxious or something, you can sort of say, right, well, what am I going to do up until lunchtime? And then when you get to lunchtime, you can recheck in with yourself and say, right, what am I going to do before school pickup? How can I manage to move forward through this period of the day? And when you break the day in, because we quite often say, don't we, oh, I've had an awful day. But when you actually think about it, you didn't have an awful day. It was 10 minutes where you got rained on bringing the shopping in or something, and that's what your brain will do, isn't it? Your brain will go, do you remember that awful bit? And it will forget the other 23 hours and 50 minutes,
Yeah, no,
because that's what we are, naturally negatively wired, aren't we?
Yeah, no, that is.
Hi, Pussycat.
She's come to join us. I always get the cat. You had your dog with you last time we chatted.
Yeah, we did. They're not far away. I wouldn't be surprised if they appear.
Yeah. Well, yes. So that's a really, really good coping strategy. That is to break it down. It's like chunking it down, isn't it? So the day doesn't feel quite so overwhelming. Knowing that. No, I was thinking, when you know how you feel, you can break patterns and cycles. How you get a chance to actually breathe and decide how you would rather feel. So that's really great. And how has this benefited you and your family, would you say?
I think no matter which way we look at it, mums do tend to be the anchor for the home. And I think it is, we all try and do our best, and nobody's perfect, and there is no such thing as perfection. Yeah. But if you're traveling at a pace where you are aware of yourself and you're able to have these short check-ins and see how you're feeling, you're then in a better position to express how you are feeling. So if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, and maybe your children are old enough, you can actually say to them, look, I'm just feeling really tired today. I've had a couple of things happen and it's been a bit much. Would it be all right if we did this later? or you can express to your partner. And then whereas when you're traveling too quickly and you're not checking in with yourself, then I personally be more inclined to just do a "Rah!" and then in which case you've lost it, screamed at everybody, and then you've then got the consequence of having, how do I make it up to everyone, because now everyone's upset because I've screamed and there was no need really, however I've done it now. So then you've got that ripple effect, haven't you? And then you've got the guilt that comes with, oh, I shouldn't have shouted at them, or I shouldn't this, I shouldn't have that. And so the pattern goes on. So if you're in a position, and it's not just mums, is it? I mean, if all adults could check in and keep a tab on themselves, then you're able to respond, not react, and that's ultimately what we want, isn't it?
Exactly. And I have to admit, that was me last night. Like I did actually shout at my kids because
Yeah.
they've gone off on holiday today with my husband, because it's school holidays in Scotland, and I felt like I was the only one. I felt like it was me who was going on holiday. Like the boys didn't seem to want to be packing.
No.
I was like, I got so frustrated with them. And I did have to, like, at bedtime, I explained like why I shouted, why I got snappy and how I was feeling. And I think it's really important that we actually do share our emotions as parents, as mums.
I completely agree with you, because
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, my children are a bit older, but if I say to them, do you know what, I don't find it easy to remember everything for everyone, and they've asked me to do something and I've forgotten, I'll say to them, please could you just write that down? And I've got a sort of a jotter pad in the kitchen. I say, if you put it on, if you write it in there, I will not forget to do it for you. If it's something specific for, I mean, my daughter's at work, my son's at college, but if I'm supporting them in some way, if I've got some time, then that's part of having a family network, isn't it? If one person can support another, then parenting aside, even in a home with, older children, they return the favors too. So they will, or because I mean, my daughter's driving, so she'll pick things up on the way home if she's time and I ask her. And I think if you have those open, calm communications, you're able to say, look, like, we said, if you explain, I just feel shattered today and I don't know why, and it's come out like this, so I'm sorry. You're far better to do that than you are to leave it to stew for another 3 days, because then that's when your guilt kicks in, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And my son's 12, and actually the 8-year-old as well. I say to them, well, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. Like I've got so much on my mind. If you want me to do that or help with that, like, don't expect me to remember. Like, I need your help to remember to, I don't know, get your PE kit washed last minute or
Yeah.
whatever. Or, you need to remind me to book your disco ticket or whatever. If you want to do it, I like to push back some of the responsibility onto them,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I've got a lot on right now, a lot to think about. And so is your dad. So yeah,
I don't think it's a bad thing though,
no,
because
I don't.
ultimately we are raising children to be adults in the world.
Yeah.
And although I do kind of think, I don't know, some people disagree with me, but like the mundane chores of life, if I can do them, I'll do them. Because I do think that it's not a matter of they don't know how. I wouldn't expect them to do washing and things like that, because that's kind of, on I go with it, if you get my drift. And no doubt they'd wash one pair of socks because that's what they wanted. And yeah, that would be it. But it's, I just think you've got all of your life with the perpetual cycle of running a home, haven't you? Whether you live in a family, on your own, with a partner, you've got your entire adult life really to do all these things. So yes, I do think that there should be some responsibilities, but I'm also kind of a bit of a fan of, they do need to also be able to experience the things they can at that age, don't they? So it's not overloading, I suppose, the mundane stuff, which works well for us because my children naturally do it. They'll naturally clear the table and they'll naturally load the dishwasher. So it just sort of,
you muck in as a team, which is how
which is,
yeah.
it's better than having a list of, in our home anyway, it works better than having a, this is your list of chores, that's your list of chores. They tend to sort of follow suit, which pleases me, because then I think, well, actually they're doing that willingly, aren't they?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Teamwork's a very important part, I think, of a harmonious family life. But then, you can advocate for the teamwork as well by again explaining how you feel, can't you? And like that,
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
I don't feel I can do all this right now.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it all. We shouldn't have to do it all.
No, definitely
Yeah.
not.
So, what would you say the challenges are with checking in with ourselves as busy mums? I work with working mums, and you work with not just
All
mums,
sorts of
but
people,
also,
yeah. So
yeah,
I think the thing is, everyone thinks they haven't got time. You know, you can take on a client, can't you? And I haven't really got time for this. I haven't got time for this. But they obviously want to have the time because they want to change the way things are going. And I think it's also a little bit the language you use with yourself. You know, everybody, there is a busy culture, isn't there? We're all too busy. We're all too busy.
yeah,
And if you flip that and kind of say, well, I've had a full day today, you know, today's been full,
yeah.
that's like
The mindset
a more
shift, isn't it?
positive, yeah, it's a more positive reinforcement. Yesterday has been full, and it would be a good day for everyone to pitch in and help, you know. But it's everyone thinks they haven't got time, but actually when you look at some of the techniques that are, you know, we spoke about the pause, you know, that's literally a sigh, and then you've got techniques that are less than 3 minutes, and
Yeah,
ones that are really effective that are 1 minute. When you start to actually apply them, you think, oh, you know, in a 24-hour day, you have got 1 minute,
yeah. If
you
you
know,
if you decide that you want to, if you choose to, and you set the intention
yeah,
to, but
yeah,
you have to want to improve your how you're feeling, don't you? You have to want
yeah,
to get out of that low kind of vibe energy and give yourself a boost. Um,
yeah, definitely.
yeah. So we talked about the pause. Would you be willing to just guide us through your three simple, and you've got three simple techniques, practices to share with us today? Um, so yeah, over to you.
Well, so we'll start with the shortest, shall we? Because I think that's always the
Yeah,
best way to go,
yeah,
because the shorter the better when you start trying something new. So if you, I know we spoke about if you were cooking tea or, you know, preparing food and there's an awful lot of background noise and you're maybe feeling like, oh my goodness, I cannot, you know, you can feel when you feel yourself being overwhelmed, there is a physical connection to it, isn't there? A lot of people get almost like a flush face, or they can feel
yeah.
that
Or your
fizzing
heart
coming. Yeah. It's
palpitating
almost
really
like you can feel it
quickly.
rise, can't you? Like the verbal is going to follow the rise of the heat, isn't it?
That's
But
true.
so the pause is literally a sigh. So an inhale through your nose and an exhale through your mouth, as if you've exactly that. So you've just taken a pause and you've just broken for that split second the negative cycle, which then allows you a moment to say, right, what actually is the problem here? You
Mm,
know, so if the problem is the kids are being really loud in the background, what choices have you got to deal with that?
yeah,
So you've broken the pattern. So you think actually the kids are just having fun. Let's just, you might want to close the door if it's feeling a bit much to you, or you might want to go and say to them, could we, you know, could we just tone it down a touch, you know, instead of the alternative, which as we know is running in, waving your wooden spoon, giving it, shut up, because you've had enough.
yeah, yeah. I
So
love that.
that's,
I mean, I just did that, and I felt my shoulders just drop, and I mean, I feel a little bit anxious still because like my kids went off on their holiday, and I feel a bit. I was just saying to you that like, before we started recording that I haven't actually been on my own before for such a long time. Like I've always been with
yeah,
my kids, or you know, with people around, not just the cats. And
not
yeah,
just the
and
cats.
obviously now on the call and everything, it's like, oh, okay, I'm feeling more relaxed now, and it was instant. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
thank
is
you.
one of those techniques that literally does what it says on the tin. You just press the pause button for that sigh, and it just allows your brain to just break that cycle of thoughts where you're on a circle of, oh my goodness, this is just, you know, this is driving me insane. How am I supposed to get this done, that done, that done? And it gathers speed and gathers speed. And when you just apply a pause, it's just enough to break the spinning hamster wheel with all
Yeah.
those thoughts on it for you then to sort of interject. It's almost like putting a finger in a hamster wheel, isn't it? So we're just going to stop it for a second and then
Mm,
actually focus on the facts of what's actually happening. And by focusing on the facts, you're then also dissipating those thoughts, which 90% aren't actually relevant, because, you know, they do just gather speed, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So yeah, that would be the first one. And then the second, which is 1 minute, a 1 minute meditation. So that actually, you would start it with a pause. So you would just do an inhale and an exhale. And then you draw your focus for the next 60 seconds to where your breath is within your body. And if you find that your thoughts are running away with you, if you find that you are becoming distracted and thinking of other things, just add in another pause and draw your thoughts back to where you can feel your breath. And when you draw to the end of a minute, you just add in another pause and then continue with as you were.
It's like it's melted into my chair.
That is one of those techniques that you can do. You know, you can, if you are at work or if you are in a situation with other people, you can just draw your gaze to something where you know, in my instance now, I could look out of my window and I could focus over there. You could still be listening to somebody, but your concentration's on your breathing. Yeah. So it just allows you, it's almost like a super secret technique, because you can do it, you know, you can do it by yourself, but if you feel like you need it, and obviously the more you practice it without needing it, the more effective it is when you do. Amazing. So that's a really good one. And as we were saying before we started recording, the best way to get them to stick is to do it alongside a different habit, an already established habit, isn't it?
Yeah, like cleaning your teeth or kettle to boil. Yeah, very effective. So yeah,
and that one's quite a good one to do. You know, if you were on the school run and you were feeling quite flustered when you've just got to the gates, or you're maybe sitting in the car if you've got slightly older children waiting for them to come out, you could do that then, and then you're resetting yourself just before you pick them up.
Yeah.
So you're giving yourself that chance to, you know, apply a little bit of balance after what's no doubt already been a busy day.
Yeah, or even just like you've come across the traffic in the car and you need to go and pick the kids up and just sit in the car before you have to walk to the school gates or something. Yeah, I've done that a few times.
Yeah.
or even at like school drop off, where you've had a bit of a flustered morning, and then, you know, just that walk away from school, just like that intentional focus on your breath.
Absolutely.
So it's just it's transformational, isn't it, for your day and the course of your day?
Yeah,
incredible.
It's almost just taking the time. Well, it is taking the time to reset.
Yeah,
you know, to reset yourself, whether it's, you know, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, middle of the day. The more you practice these things, the more effective they are. And the key is to practice them when you don't need them, so that when you do need them, your brain will go, why don't you do this?
Yeah,
you know, and it will throw it up for you. Whereas, that's when it's a true habit, isn't it?
Yeah,
when it just switches on.
Subconscious. Yeah. And you have our 3-minute one as well.
Yes. So the 3-minute one, it is, I think the longer they are, the harder they are. So I always say to people, you know, you should go easy on yourself, because ultimately if you're not used to doing these kinds of things, then you can almost get lost in the middle, in which case just reset and then move forward. There's no point getting cross with yourself because, I can't do it. It's just like, well, nobody can to begin with. Nobody could walk when they were born, could they? But everybody's doing just fine now. So, you know, it is a case of allowing yourself that time to learn these things. So with the 3-minute meditation, this again is a slightly longer one. It's quite good to use once it's established, obviously, once you've already come to practice it frequently. It's quite good to use in circumstances where you feel overwhelmed or where you feel there's just too much happening. Because for the first minute, you just allow your thoughts to be there. So you can visualize them as traffic bumping around, or
shall we practice? Are you happy to guide us through a little practice now?
yeah, you can do.
Okay.
Do you want to do it, and I'll keep an eye on the time and then guide you to the next section?
What, as in me practice?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that gives them the 3 minutes for anyone watching this to actually feel it properly. And
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
okay.
So your first minute, you're going to just allow your thoughts to be there. So just sit with them.
So eyes open or closed, would you recommend?
Whichever you prefer.
I'm going to close mine then. Might fall asleep.
I'll wake you up in a minute for the next bit. So now you start thinking about moving on to the second minute. And this is the 1 minute meditation that we've already spoken about. So you take your sigh and then you focus your attention on your breathing. Focus on where it is within your body, whether it's in your chest or coming from your tummy, whether or not you can feel it circulating around your body. And we sit with this for a further minute. As we head into the third minute, now draw your attention back to those thoughts that you were considering in the first minute. And you can pay attention to the actual facts that are among those thoughts and help the thoughts that are not helpful to dissipate. So just spend the next 60 seconds focusing on the facts. And then take an inhale through the nose and exhale through the nose. And come back to how you were.
I love that. Has
that helped with your holiday thoughts?
It has actually, yeah. I was like, I'm all right. I'm going to be fine this next week. I'm going to...
You are going to be fine.
Maybe you're right. The boys are going to be fine. I can release control. I can release control of, like, Gary's in charge now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all right. It's all going to be fine. We're going to have fun.
It is taking that time to draw, our thoughts aren't facts, but obviously there's facts amongst the thoughts. And when you do that 3-minute meditation, it enables the thoughts to bump around. So they dissipate a bit then, because they're just flying around a bit, and, you're not feeding them any attention. And then you take the break in the middle with the 1 minute. And then by the time you get to the 3rd minute, you're then able to think, right, what are the actual facts that I need to draw from this? And if you are in a position where you're feeling overwhelmed, you can then move forward with the correct information, can't you?
Yeah.
The information you need. It's like, right, I can do this, because like you've just said, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're going to have a blast, to be honest. You're probably going to be,
I'm going to get so much stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to go for lots of walks and do all these things and practice yoga and
Exactly.
yeah, and it's great.
Exactly.
I love that. I mean, it's one of the things I share with my ladies as well, is, like, just practicing sitting in stillness, or, like, getting used to that state of being, and
Absolutely.
then, like, being able to filter out what's actually true and what's a story, like you just said, like, what is it actually true, what I'm telling myself, is it actually true?
Yeah.
It's very empowering, isn't it, when you can master
It is. And I think we don't ever just sit with ourselves. We don't ever just sit, we're always, you might think, when it gets to the evening or children are in bed, right, I'm going to sit, but you tend to watch. The common thing is to sit down, you might have a drink of some description, and then you'll watch something. So again, you're still doing, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you're still, we are human beings, aren't we? We are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But we're always doing. So we're
yeah.
always, we're always kind of like, oh, right, should we watch that? Should we watch that? But that's something else to do. So if you can take, if you can take 1 minute a day for yourself, you will then,
just relax and dream, and just, it's nowhere to be, nothing to do, just be.
And be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
You can feel a bit awkward sitting with yourself, can't you? Because you can feel a bit like, oh, what do I do now? I'm not, I can't sit still, that kind of thing. Because we are all portrayed that we have to be, if you're not on the go, then you're lazy.
Yeah.
And it's, well, no, actually, we're not. Now's the time to relax. You are supposed to sleep. You are supposed to take time out, aren't you?
Yeah. And, like, in my experience, that, the more I get comfortable with being in a state of being, and actually being able to sit with myself and relax into that, the more focused and intentional I can be with how I spend the rest of my time. It's like magical. Really, it's incredible. Like, I'm a lot more focused with what I do, and I achieve more because I've taken that time to relax and soothe and regulate my nervous system. So it's it's very powerful. Thank you so much for sharing those practices.
You're very welcome.
Do you have any last words of wisdom for our lovely ladies that are listening?
I think we all think we're too busy. We all think we haven't got time. And ultimately, you're living your life each day now the same as your children and your family are. Yeah. So therefore, you are allowed, and you do deserve to take time, whether that's 1 minute, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or whether you're able to carve out, a little bit more for yourself. But I think it is really important for you to be able to give your best. You need to be your best, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think when you start small, like we've just practiced, like a pause, a minute, even just 3 minutes isn't very long, really, in the grand scheme of things. But the more you practice, the more you can actually, the longer you can stretch it out to. And then, I was thinking that when you could get to go to a massage or something, and you're already in a state of, regulated state, you are able to enjoy that massage or that yoga class or whatever a lot more, because you're already more relaxed and you get more benefits from the whole of life.
Well, of course, we're not actually taught how to focus, are we?
No.
As children, we don't get taught how to focus or how to just be within ourselves. Obviously, children do activities which allow them to do that, because things like, that's where adult colouring in books came from, wasn't it? Because children tend to freely draw, create, things like that. And it's, so but nobody actually sort of teaches you how to be focused on yourself. And like you say, it's the age-old Pareto principle, isn't it? You know, 20% focused attention gets 80% results.
Yeah.
Whereas 80% unfocused produces only 20% results.
Yeah.
But it's nobody throughout your whole education and work life, nobody teaches you how to achieve that, really, do they? It's something we have to go and seek for ourselves, I think.
Yeah, if we feel we are in desperate need usually, but it needs to be something that's
It needs to
preventable
be,
rather
yeah,
than, yeah.
it does. It needs to be something that isn't desperate. It's just something that this is part of life, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. So, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for everything you shared. And is there anything else regarding your business that you'd like to share with us at all?
As I've already said, I work over the phone. I tend to do one-to-one. I do have a life DIY package, which is something that you can purchase as a one-off,
Yeah.
which involves a short phone call at the start and then 4 weekly emails and a phone call at the end to check in. And I write it to each individual's needs. So our first phone call then gives us the ground into what we need, and the check-ins then divert me where I need with it. And then the final call is to make sure you've achieved everything you wanted to. And again, you're provided with all the tools. It's a bit of a lighter thing as opposed to having the one-to-one sessions, because not everybody needs those calls, do they? Some people are self-motivated, but just need the guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for your time and your valuable, precious time. And I'm going to put your contact details in the show notes so everyone will know where to find you if they're called to
Thank
contact
you.
you. So thank you so much, Angie. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you and listening to your wisdom. Thank
Thank you.
you. Bye.